Tall Tower, and it's by Bruce Sterling.
And what it is most of the writers in the book took their own idea and decided to do something with it, and Bruce decided that he would take Neil's idea, which was Neil's concept of the 20-kilometer high tower, yes. And he would write about what happened 300 years after it was built. Bruce was actually kinder to Neil than I would have. But I find it quite entertaining.
Well, I'll just read the opening bit of the story and hopefully encourage you guys to run out and buy the full book to find out what happens at the end. My wife went to the tall tower. She left for orbit, never to return to Earth. Gretchen so wanted to go up there. I got pretty lonesome. The tall tower commenced to weigh heavy on my troubled mind. To dream big and to build big, that was the big idea of the tall tower. To build a tower that touched the cosmos. In weightlessness, they build bigger than the green earth can allow. Big dreams do come true sometimes, but time goes on despite the size of dreams. Now, I'd fulfilled some dreams. A loving bride, 2 fine sons. I'd gotten in my full share of trout fishing and campfire songs with the guitar. And I had built a home, and I'd run a good business too. I was a historical tour guide by trade. My horse, Levi, and I led a mule train of tourists together down into an old-time copper mine. That hole in Arizona was one of the biggest structures humankind had ever created, and in my own day, it was a mighty ghost mine, a feral wilderness of landslides, rattlesnakes, and cactus. Levi and I made that Arizona copper mine into an exotic tour business. We kitted out for every season in our heritage cowboy gear, me with my white hat and blue jeans, plus a 6-shooter and a lariat. Levi sported his shiny silver saddle and his blue and white striped horse blanket. The tourists were generous to me, while the tourist kids always loved Levi. In the off-season, Levi and I ventured far over the horizon, sometimes as far as the tumble-down ruins of El Paso and Tucumcari. The two of us are restless souls by our natures as man and beast. Time had made me an older man. As for my faithful horse Levi, being a horse, Levi was downright elderly. That being said, the time had come for me to venture to the tall tower. Plenty of room up in orbit for a man's soul to grow to vast dimensions. Living in outer space, I would have a superhuman lifespan and wield superhuman powers. I'd be up among the stars with the highest of the high technologies. But one simple matter bothered me. What about my horse? To become superhuman is a great thing, obviously, but what about the super equine? It was the wife who first put that problem into my head. It just don't seem fair, Gretchen told me one summer evening as we sat out on our back porch together at the rancho drinking homemade beer. Our animal friends will never share our bliss when we're ascended masters up in outer space. My wife Gretchen enjoyed an intense spiritual life. Gretchen had always lived within sight of the tall tower, and the tall tower cast its morning shadow from Arizona clear to Los Angeles. Nothing mankind had built could match the steely splendor of that 6-legged derrick soaring towards the stars. Big lights glared upon it, and small lights twinkled brightly up and down the curves of its almighty slopes. Pretty swarms of drone planes flew among its cross-braced beams. Flower gardens hung off it. Trailing clouds rippled from the tall tower like pennants because it pretty much made its own weather. Since its completion, no earthly structure had ever matched the tall tower. Why build 2 of them? Why build such things on Earth? You had to build off the Earth to outbuild the tall tower. The tall tower was the tallest, grandest possible structure that the Earth could support. And the tower sang to us as it stood there. Every night there were launches, the passenger ships firing off. Those space trains carried crowds of eager human beings, shedding all earthly limits, abjuring all earthly ties. As mankind departed from Earth to build grander things in outer space, a healing Earth grew green and wild again. A man on a good horse could follow the empty highway from the Yukon to Honduras and never set an eye on a fellow human being. With technology lofted to the starry realm, the bears, wolves, and bald eagles returned to rule Earth's rivers, plains, and peaks. Longhorn cattle abounded. So did rugged mustangs and my Levi. The earth abided under a night sky swarming with satellites. Gretchen respected the ascended masters, taking faith in them for her salvation. Each and every night, cartridges of human astronauts were loaded into the tall tower's base. A narrow launch tube ran up the tower, a rifle barrel to the stars. These spacecraft capsules nestled within would get quantumly transposed through the astral technology of the ascended masters. The capsules existed down the tower's base and yet also existed far up the tower's remote summit, both at the same cosmic instant. When that waveform probability collapsed, the quantum spacecraft would fling themselves from the tower straight to the heavens, squirting off slick as watermelon seeds. When Gretchen betook herself upward, we didn't fight about that matter. The ascended masters had astral capacities. They lived on stellar paradises forged from the iron of asteroids, great space cities so colossal that I saw them in the daylight with my naked eye. We human beings knew as much about their cosmic science as my horse Levi knew about saddle stitching. The ascended masters were nano and robo and bio, and we human beings were their larvae. The ascended masters never reproduced, they left that vital task to us, humanity. Through their own wise choice, the ascended masters were celibate. The greatest of them were astral, boneless entities, all telescope eyes, nerves, and megatons of living brain floating through the cosmos in shining steel shells. And the earth was their cradle. The ascended masters called us from that cradle to become their recruits. We ventured up there to join them in the heavens once we felt good and ready for it, and until then, they kept their starry distance from us. That was a sensible arrangement. Now, to tell the truth, some people had some problems with this state of affairs. Human nature is crooked, and sometimes we balk at salvation like a horse will shy at a shadow. So I will confess that I too had a problem. What about my horse? That arrangement excluded my horse. A man is a being, and a horse is also a being. But humans are aspirational beings who imagine and speculate and plan and build, and no horse does all that. Yet Levi also had his dignity and his worth. Because Levi wore the saddle and was dutiful, Levi had met his bargain with me. Now I found myself alone with him. My boys had grown, my wife was gone her own way. It was just him and me under those bright stars and satellites. And call me stubborn or call me sentimental fool, but I owed something to my sturdy beast. So I settled my affairs. I sold off the spread and I gave away my earthly possessions. I took a last farewell look around and I saddled him up. The two of us headed for the tall tower to meet our destiny.
From the sky of heaven.